Hello, relatives. Welcome to this week's Schlagbite for the week January 20th, 2018. It's been a little while since I've written, so this story is going to be a little bit longer. You know, I've been downsizing and moved from my two-story, 1,500 square foot office into a much smaller space in my home. This change has meant sharing my memorabilia with people who I know will appreciate them and tell their stories. One of these objects was a hat given to me by a Huichol shaman when I was deep in the canyons of the Sierra Madre mountains of central Mexico. It's been hanging in my office as a sacred reminder of the most impactful healing experience I've ever participated in. So I'm going to tell you the short story, but if you want to hear all the details, take a look at the attached file. But in brief, I was invited by a Mexican civil engineer, Fernando Ortiz Monasterio, who'd been working with the Huichol for more than 20 years. He knew of my experience in working with native tribes in North America and asked me if I could help treat an epidemic among children who became possessed by an evil spirit that turned them into wild, aggressive animals. These manifestations had been going on for a decade. The tribe had sought help from traditional healers who are called maracame. They are the ceremonial chiefs and carriers of the sacred stories, and they worked their magic, but it didn't stop the illness. Psychiatrists were brought in from Mexico City who believed that the illness was a psychotic manifestation for which they prescribed drugs, which also had no impact. It took a year to make this healing journey happen, and during that time we brought together a team of 6 experienced professionals, and we formulated a basic plan that was open to all kinds of spontaneous revelations. And the plan was to mobilize a force that was more powerful than the one causing the illness. So we talked to kids and parents and tribal officials and discovered this tribe was deeply divided between its traditionalists and its more progressive elements. The traditionalists lived deep in the isolated canyons of the Sierra Huichol, in villages that were a day and sometimes longer walk from the boarding schools, which were located on top of the mesas. The traditionalists were increasingly concerned that their children were often choosing not to come home for ceremonies. They loved the electricity and television and flush toilets and hot showers, a powerful seduction. The traditionalists were seeing their children moving away from that path that had sustained them since the beginning of time. The progressives also lived on the mesa tops and believed that the future of the tribe would be determined by education and adaptation. It is a matter of fact that compulsory education and boarding schools have been the greatest force for the acculturation of indigenous people all over the world. The illness was actually a conversion reaction, with the children becoming the symptomatic manifestation of this ongoing, unresolved conflict. One result of our intervention was that we were led to a well-recognized and powerful maracame whose name was Eutimio de la Cruz. His portrait was painted by Diego Rivera and hangs in the Museum of Art in Mexico City. Eutimio lived in a village about a 3-hour walk from the school, and he'd been accused, even jailed, for being responsible for the illness. we made plans to meet with him. It was our hope that we would get him to make a contribution to the offering that we were gathering. And we made a powerful connection, which turned out to be a critical element in the success of our work. After 13 years in my office and moving out, it was time for the Maracame's hat to go home. Fernando will tell its story and then pass it on to somebody else who will tell it. Stories, legends, myths that are told around fireplaces, in ceremonies, are how a culture transmits its values. Those tales help us make sense of our lives. Those who tell the stories define the culture. We live in troubling times, and the stories we are telling, no longer around fireplaces, are told in sentence fragments, and they are not sustaining us. We are a nation divided, frightened, and demoralized. We need to be telling better stories. It's the most important thing we leave behind. Take a look at the attached photographs, and if you're interested in exploring more of our stories together, join me at the next Schlag Chat on Monday, January 29th at 6 p.m. Phoenix time. I'll send you some more data. So relatives, I say farewell to you. Have a great week. Enjoy the present. Appreciate what's all around you. I say this for all my relations. Mitakuye.